Well, welcome to another episode of Out and About with Jerry Williams. And today, something very interesting. It was brought to my attention. I'm talking about the Hartford's Black Heroes Trail, which is the brainchild of Bridget Prince. And in the wake of Black History Month, I thought I'd reach out to Bridget to learn more. So join me now for that conversation on this segment of Out and About with Jerry Williams. How you doing, Bridget?
Bridget is doing real good. How you doing, Jerry Williams?
I'm doing okay. Right. It's a pleasure meeting you. We spoke over the phone, and she was kind enough to donate her time to come and talk with us to explain more about Hartford's Black Heroes Trail. It's honoring Hartford's Black history for generations to come. But before we get into the trail, you were born and raised in Hartford. What was your experience like coming up in Hartford?
Okay, born in Hartford back during the height of the Civil Rights Movement. So I am a child of the Civil Rights Movement. During that time, early on in my, younger years, early on, I do remember Hartford was beautiful place. I lived my first few years in Hartford, and then we moved to East Hartford to a neighborhood housing complex called Hockenham Park, where my mother grew up at. But my early years was in Hartford. And what I do recall about Hartford is blacks were just beautiful. So when you hear that slogan, "Black is beautiful," believe it, it was true. It was magnificent. The North End of Hartford was the premier place for opportunity and for growth. The North End of Hartford it was self-contained. Everything you needed, groceries, entertainment, education, cultural experiences, pharmacies, anything you needed in that North End of Hartford, it was there. There was this place called Unity Plaza, and I could recall us going to church and leaving church and going to Unity Plaza, which was the first Black developed and first Black owned shopping center in all of Hartford, if not all of New England. So it was beautiful. Bellevue Square was great memories. It really was. So I have this vivid memory of what Hartford was like during the Civil Rights Movement, and people during that time really embraced the movement, and they respected the movement and the opportunity that the civil rights fighters were really fighting for. It was cherished, it was respected, and it was protected. So that is what my memory is about Hartford, which is what led me to present the Black History Heritage Trail.
Bridget Prince is my guest. So explain what the Hartford's Black Heroes Trail is all about and what it looks like.
It's a collection of Blacks who made remarkable contributions in Hartford. They were trailblazers, they were innovators, civil rights leaders, and they came from every walk, every aspect of accomplishment. In the trail, first of all, we recently mourned the passing of Mayor Thurman Milner. He was the first Black mayor in New England. So there's he's one of the first ones on the plaque. What it is, they're banners made out of metal, and they have the individual's picture on the banner, and then there's a summary, a bio of that person. And there's a QR code where you can actually you scan and get more information about that individual, about the Black Heritage Trail.
So the trail is a collection of information of these Black heroes, if you will. And how many are currently on the trail?
19. I thought it was 20, but it's 19. Hopefully we will continue, because there's, like I said, a lot of history that should be honored, history that should be celebrated. There are people who have yet to be on the trail, but they should be. So we're looking to continue to work with the politicians in Hartford and to continue to move forward.
How long is the trail?
The trail goes from City Hall into the North End of Hartford. So the banners are placed on light posts scattered throughout the community.
And there's a map, actually, I understand, that you can access to show you and direct you to where they are.
Yes.
Bridget Prince is my guest, and I understand that you had brought the idea to then Councilwoman Tiana Hercules. What happened after that when you brought it to Tiana? What was that experience like?
Councilwoman Hercules, we had a conversation. Actually, it was first presented to the whole council. So I came and spoke and, said we really should celebrate Hartford's trailblazers. There is an immense amount of Black history, not just local history, but national history. And I think we should celebrate it. So she was sitting there. So she heard it, and she had her aide, Renato, reach out to me. So this is how it happened. He reached out to me, and then he and I worked on the banners together. We ended up having a press conference after they were done. That was probably about a 2-month process. And then beginning of February, maybe 3rd or 4th, in 2023, we had a press conference in front of City Hall. It was unveiled. So when she talked about it, she really emphasized the fact that Hartford needed to celebrate Black history. And this is the one thing that I feel, because now there's a pause. There's a pause in the banners being continued with everything, and if I may, with everything that's going on right now in the present climate, even the dismantling of DEI, I think that's diversity, equity, and inclusion, I think is extremely important for us to be unified and to celebrate and honor and to really display the history. This is important for me, and I want to say a little bit more about Hartford and why I've been motivated. There was another banner on there. It was a Dr. Richard Battles, who was the pastor of Mount Olive Church. During his tenure, he had a friend that used to come and visit him often. His friend's name was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King was in Hartford probably more often than it was publicized. Dr. King and Dr. Battles, they built affordable housing. Actually, Dr. King advocated and fought for affordable housing in Hartford. As a result, they built a housing complex on Martin Street, ironically, corner Martin Street and Nelson Street. So that was the result of his advocacy. Martin Luther King's brother, AC, he helped build some of the other properties in the north end of Hartford also. They have a lot of history in Hartford. Malcolm X, speaking of Bellevue Square, Malcolm X during the 50s, he came from Boston to Hartford. He actually met a woman in Springfield while he was preaching at a mosque. She had invited him to come to Hartford to hold a service. He came to Hartford and he was very impressed with the Blacks in Hartford because most of the families came from the South. They actually realized that they were in a different life, So when you're coming from the South during Jim Crow and pre-civil rights, a lot of them were coming from sharecropping lifestyles. So you came up to Hartford and you were now able to ride on the front of the bus. You were able to get jobs in the banks and insurance companies. Malcolm X realized that I'm now in an area with people who knew who they were and who celebrated, okay, I got this opportunity, they took advantage of the opportunity, and they were here. So with that, he came to Bellevue Square, and he was doing services in Bellevue Square every Thursday night. That's true. Every Thursday night, until the groups got too large, and then from that point, he established the first mosque in Hartford, the second mosque in Hartford, the third mosque in Hartford. That's an amazing historical fact about the neighborhood where I'm from. This is why Hartford is so important to me. You have two of the most significant world-renowned civil rights leaders of our time. They both been a whole lot of places, but they both end up coming to Hartford at different times, was inspired and motivated by Hartford. When Dr. King was here, he called Hartford the Promised Land. The same thing. He came here as a young boy working in tobacco fields, And when you hear about that story, people tell the story about the tobacco fields. I said it wasn't the tobacco fields that he talked about. He said tobacco was long, it was hot, it was, we work in tobacco. It's labor. He said, but it was after that, he said it was trips to Hartford that he came on the weekend. He said he can go downtown Hartford and sit at the lunch counter without asking to be moved. And he saw the same thing. It was a whole different experience. And that really propelled him to go into a career of civil rights. So this is why this Hartford, this Heritage Trail, this Black Heritage Trail is important, because it links you to history like that we don't celebrate, and that even politicians are trying to erase. But, there's some rich world history in Hartford, Connecticut.
We're talking about the Hartford's Black Heroes Trail. It's honoring Hartford's Black history for generations to come. This is the brainchild of Bridget Prince. Any closing remarks you'd like to convey to our listening audience about the trail?
Yeah, I would like people to look it up. We're gonna pursue it. If you have any ideas, any input, you could definitely call Mr. Jerry Williams, and he'll get some messages to me. But support it. That's the big thing. Support history, because what I like to see in Hartford is the cultures to be celebrated. And when you go to a big city, you might have different sections, but there's also a cultural awareness and a cultural celebration of it. And I just like the cultural to be celebrated, because there are a lot of treasures in Hartford. One last thing I want to mention, Hartford also, in the north end of Hartford, we have Black Civil War heroes buried there. They're the 29th Colored Volunteer Infantry Regiment, who was mustered in New Haven, and they decided they was going to go and help fight the Civil War, and had to form their own army because the Union Army wouldn't accept them because they were not white. But this actual regiment that's buried in the north end, Old North Cemetery in the north end of Hartford, they were credited with being the regiment that stormed into Richmond when General Robert E. Lee surrendered. So they were part of that. And that's also rich history in the north end of Hartford. People hear about that now, and they was like, oh my God, are you serious? I didn't know that. That's national history. And the cemetery is on the National Registry of Historic Sites, but you would never know it. These are treasures that need to be unburied and revealed and shared. I like people just, share our culture and support it. And I think you will really appreciate the history that you'll get out of it.
You're very informative about a lot of things, very passionate about a lot of things. You're involved in a lot of things. There's even a press conference coming up about another issue in a few days. We could talk another time about that. But God bless you. If anybody want to reach out to you directly, do you want to release a contact information or?
Sure. My email address is bridgetprince64@gmail.com. As Bridget is spelled BridgetPrince, the number 6, the number 4 @gmail.com. BridgetPrince64@gmail.com.
From Bellevue Square, Hartford.
Bellevue Square.
She's Bridget Prince. Thank you, Bridget.
Thank you, Mr. Jerry Williams. I really appreciate the opportunity.
God bless you.
God bless you, too.
You just heard my conversation with Bridget Prince for Hartford's Black Heroes Trail. And that concludes another segment with Out and About with Jerry Williams. And until we meet again, consider bringing a smile to someone's face today. Do something good. God bless you.